Welcome to the Inside Rugby podcast. My name's Andy Taylor, and I'm joined once again by Stuart and Isaac because it's BUCS season, guys. You know, it feels like it was only yesterday that we were here talking about BUCS. We certainly were all together during the summer, weren't we? But no Kiwi for BUCS. You can catch her on the WFFL flag talks. But before we know it, guys, we're now in the middle of October and we're starting with BUCS. Are you ready? Are you ready for this year?
It's been nice to have 3 or 4 weeks off, though, hasn't it? Since Brit Ball, yes. We've still pushed some content out, but me personally, haven't filmed a podcast in about 4 weeks. Getting back into the swings of logging into our software was arduous tonight, but yeah, happy to be back.
And Isaac, you're donning your Team North merchandise today because you've been involved in that as well, haven't you, the last few weeks?
Yeah, it's been good getting back into coaching after my time at Bradford and stuff like that. So it's been nice to be coaching again, really.
Yeah, well, in the background, we haven't been doing nothing. I've been recording some podcasts with Bristol. I've got so far in Solent. Managed to get them. Going to get London Blitz together, and we've got a couple of others to do, and we'll bring you our Champions Series ASAP. And all the while, WFFL has started, and they've started doing a bunch of podcasts over there. There was a great interview with GB champions in the European flag, wasn't there, championships? And then there was obviously a representative from the men's, Dave McAnally, who finished 4th in Europe, which beat everybody's expectations. So head on over to our YouTube, have a look in our podcasts. If you haven't heard them, go and listen to those amazing conversations that we had there. But we are here for contact and BUCS football, aren't we? So it's going to be a shortish one today because obviously there's only 2 fixtures this week, but we're going to kind of give you our overall thoughts of what to expect from the season in general, maybe some predictions along the way. We'll see how we feel as we go along. And then we've got some exciting news to give you at the end, just to keep hold of our listeners. And by the end of it, you guys will know you've been filling in your ballots. We will provide a bit more detail on that at the end of the pod. So don't forward wind, hang around, and we will provide you some information later on. So before we get into it, let's have a little into this week. Let's have a little look at the alignments that obviously Stuart nicely produced for us. Feels months ago now that they came out and we started getting buzzing about BUCS football. But it kind of allows the viewers to have a little look at what BUCS looks like at the moment, and we'll take you through what we think stands out for the listeners as well. So as always, we have a look towards the national, don't we? There's 2 nationals on this graphic because of the way it was detailed, obviously, for social media. But I said, what if we just go with the national for now? What's your expectations? Because I think last year, it's the same as last year, isn't it? This National League. Obviously, we've got UE as the national champions and Gold trying to push them along. But the bottom of that division might look a little bit different this year as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly that. I think last year we got to really see the teams suss each other out. We saw that UWE aren't just playing the northern teams like when it gets to the playoffs, and we're playing them week in, week out, and we saw how strong they are. But like you said, at that bottom of the table, that Durham, Loughborough, Leeds, Beckett cohort is out there, could have a massive shake-up with the recruitment that, especially that Leeds Beckett have done. I think most people have seen it on socials, that the strong recruitment drive, and not just players but also coaches they've got as well. So that there could be, the national could be in through a massive shake-up this year.
We know of a new head coach. We know of a new OC, don't we? I think they're the main sort of announcements that have happened over social media. We know of a number of position coaches with plenty of experience as well, don't we? And as you say, their social media has exploded this year compared to last year for sure, hasn't it? And so, Stuart, with those sort of recruitments happening, last year was disastrous for Leeds Beckett. So are we still reserving judgment at this point, or are we really expecting there to be a bounce back from Leeds Beckett, who obviously not so long ago were national champs?
I am still reserving judgment. They've still got to prove it. It's all well and good announcing player X, player Y, and player Z, but you see it in the pros, you see it in college, you see it in adult football. You can recruit whoever you like, but if they don't gel on the field and they're not coached properly, they're not going to put performances on the field, right? So I think they'll compete. I think, thinking back to my piece that we're going to come on to later on, I think I have sort of accelerated them up slightly. But it'd be interesting to see what Durham bring. They tend to quietly go about their business. They don't tend to tell us who they've recruited, but you tend to find that they have a number of scholars on their roster as well, and they've usually got the same sort of coaching staff. So at least that's stability in there, provides them with a good base. For me, the interesting one is Loughborough. They always sort of go under the radar. You never know what they're really going to be like. Again, a squad with a really good, stable coaching setup, a fantastic sporting uni with fantastic facilities. So, yeah, I think it just depends on the crop of players that they get in, and obviously whether they can draw anything from the NFL Academy, coaches and facilities and anything like that, with the link that they've got with that Loughborough College set up there as well. So for me, I think this is going to be much closer than it was last year. We tended to see the 2 at the top and the 3 at the bottom. I think we're going to have probably, I'm going to sort of pin my colours to the mast here, probably 1 at the top and 4 the rest of the way. That are really, I think the bottom 3 are really going to push the top 2 this year. And I think that's only good for college football.
We speak about that divide, but you got to remember Durham did beat Nottingham last season, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, you did.
They beat in previous seasons as well, and I think now, especially with the, I think the national is now built for what it's built for, and we're just going to see a competitive league now throughout the season, really.
And I think that's what everybody wants, isn't it? But you do worry that with the recruitment, we'd be remiss in not mentioning the recruitment that UE have done as well. We know that from conversations with people around the program that they're keeping a lot of their talent from last year, and then looking at some of the talent that I'm laughing because you don't see that type of talent coming to the UK to play American football, but ex-NFL players, ELF players, or RIP ELF. Let's see what that's like this summer. But there is who knows. But there are some amazing players coming to play at UE as well, and it's been that way for a number of years now, hasn't it? UE recruits so well, so do Nottingham Gold, but Nottingham Gold are just a little bit quieter about it, aren't they? And then all of a sudden they're there pushing them to close results, really, and sometimes sharing results other than in the finals, obviously. And we haven't mentioned Loughborough. Have we managed to pick anything up from Loughborough this season, or are we expecting there to be a bit more of a challenge for Loughborough this year to stay in the Prem National, assuming that somebody takes the promotion, of course?
I think I touched upon it. Like, I don't know. Like, I haven't heard much. I haven't seen much. Funnily enough, I've worked a couple of times in Loughborough, but no sort of football knowledge. I'm pretty sure that Martin Hilton is still going to be the head coach there, and I know that he builds a really strong coaching staff, and he's got a lot of draw around sort of the Midlands and East Midlands. So I still think that team will compete. I still think that they'll pick up wins throughout the season. But yeah, it's just interesting to see what comes at the end of it and what BUCS decide is sort of, if anybody else is relegated, or whether they grow the national Prem, because I know that there was some talk of potentially growing it going forward in the future in their original plan a couple of years ago. So it might be that we actually see it go from 5 to 10 or 5 to 8 perhaps, because I think the rugby is Super 8s, isn't it, for the men's rugby? I think they call it Super 8. I'm not sure if it's the same for the women's in BUCS. But yeah, they may well grow it. Depends if teams accept the invitation to go up and play Prem National football, doesn't it?
And last season they did run like the likes of Durham Court as well. Like, the links that they have to NFL Academy is only a good thing as well for them with the coaching standards and everything like that. So no, I think that Loughborough may find it tricky at times, but all in all, they should be all right.
yeah, as you say, hopefully a bit more competitive bottom of this division. Certainly, you wouldn't expect there to be a minus 500 points differential for Leeds Beckett this year, would you? But again, there's a lot of turnaround there, and let's see. Maybe Huey will put 250 on everybody this year. Who knows? But let's have a little look at the Premiership tier then. So the 1A, if you like. Obviously, we have Northumbria finding themselves in this tier this time around. We know that SGS obviously didn't go up after winning the championship last year, but they're joined by Brunel, who have been obviously hopping up the tiers in recent years. So obviously not giving too much away for the preview for this week, but Isaac, I'll come to you first here. What are you looking forward to this year that maybe we didn't have last year, or any other notes for you on this tier?
I think we've seen it, especially with the recruitment that we've done. For example, they've got a lot of SGS guys. I think that Premier South is just now going to be wide open for anyone. You know, you look at the likes of Portsmouth last year, who, you know, were really good throughout the season. Yeah, picked up a couple of losses to SGS and to Exeter, but all in all, were good. You got Cardiff that is still somehow in the Prem South, which I'm shocked at each year I see it, because the amount of times they should have been relegated and haven't been, it's incredible. And you got Brunel, who in their own right have done some incredible recruitment as well. So I think all in all, it's like the Prem National. It's going to be a lot more competitive, and it's going to be better for a lot of people. And I think that when we see the North versus South, that's all it's going to be, just competitive. And I mean, that's why the entire rejig of the alignments happened, and it really just to make it more competitive. And then the second season, we're finally seeing that.
And I know we've touched on South to start off with, but Stuart, we obviously know that SGS have given us some nuggets around what their expectations are. But then obviously Exeter, haven't they lost a head coach in the off season as well? Which head coach obviously in Leiden, who was probably their OC, or at least had something to do with their offense as well, right? Which always showed up last year. Is there going to be a reshuffle here, or are we expecting Brunel to shuffle to the top of the pack?
I don't know whether they'll shuffle straight to the top. I think they'll fit in very nicely, and I think they'll be hugely competitive. To the best of my knowledge, they will probably be the only team playing on grass in this division as well. The other four are all sort of 3 or 4G pitches. But yeah, to the best of my knowledge, Brunel still play on grass. Whether that'll change with them being a Premiership team and their university go, here you go, have a 4G field somewhere. Yeah, that remains to be seen. But no, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this Prem South comes together. You were correct with SGS Pride sharing nuggets with us. That was more for the U19 regional side, so I'm interested to see whether that spreads to the BUCS side as well, or whether that was across the SGS Pride team as a general whole. So yeah, it might just be some of you listeners, viewers, may have seen that SGS Pride under-19 regional team went up to Scotland and lost, which, I don't think anybody is associating SGS Pride with losses on their record, certainly in the last few years. And that was a bit of a surprise. Scotland did fantastic. Don't get me wrong. We've had lots of information about that. We had good links with Tartan Touchdown. I keep wanting to call them Touchdown Tartan, so sorry guys. But yeah, they've filled us in with a lot of details, and we've had a massive clip pretty much go viral. I'll mention it. But yeah, I am interested to see what SGS bring this year. They will still train a phenomenal amount compared to everybody else. So I'm sure that the guys that they have got on their roster will benefit from the coaching, level of coaching, and the amount of coaching that they're going to get ahead of their season going forward.
And then we've got a bit of movement in the north as well, haven't we? Because by my last count, there's at least 2 new head coaches in the north as well, isn't there? I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, Bo has stepped down at Leeds. Kevin, Coach O'Regan, stepped down at Newcastle. If I've got that right, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Was it Durham?
Was he at Durham? Was he? I thought he was.
I mean, my coach at Team North, and I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, I was pretty sure that it was Newcastle, but please correct me on the fly. But still, nonetheless, Northumbria again hopping up the tiers, find themselves here, and there's a couple of teams here who are going to be nervous of being able to stay in this tier, aren't they?
Yes. Sorry, yeah, I was looking. I was trying to find out who the head coach was, and I think I found him, Coach Stevenson, I believe.
Okay.
Bryce Stevenson. Yeah.
Yeah, and now Enrique is the head coach at Newcastle as well, which I think is a great thing. Working closely with him with Team North, you can see that Newcastle have got a really, really good head coach in their hands. I think one thing that we got to give a lot of props to is Northumbria. The way that they've been able to rise up in the last 3 years, going not Div 2, Div 1 up to the Prem, like in 2 seasons is incredible, really. Led by the American QB who's been there for, I think this is his 3rd year now. So yeah, it helps, doesn't it? But one thing that's going to be interesting this year is NTU. We saw them before Christmas last year have a really, really good start to the season. And then they came back after Christmas, and what happened, we don't know. They just didn't look like the same team again. So I think that's going to be definitely an interesting one to see if they can bounce back to their pre-Christmas form of last year.
And then obviously there's Warwick Wolves, isn't there, who needs to, who are that division champs. Obviously they didn't get on as well as they would have liked in the playoffs, but you'd certainly expecting them to be a tough challenge. There's nothing to suggest otherwise, is there? Certainly within the Warwick program that they're not going to be doing what they usually do. Any other nuggets on Prem before we go to Tier 1?
There was a couple of scrimmages this weekend. So I know that 3 of the teams in that division, I nearly said tier, but it's a division, of that division had scrimmages against other teams this weekend. So yeah, they'll have obviously a bye week in week 1, and then I think most teams are in action in week 2. So yeah, I think a lot of teams are knocking dust off either this week or next week, and then yeah, it'll be interesting to see where these all sort of settle. I think these are going to be 2 really competitive divisions this season. I'm looking forward to the Prem North and South, and sort of seeing what results they throw out at us.
Yeah, fair. I was just having a look at, trying to peruse at some of the first week's fixtures, and to your point, Isaac, about NTU, they can't start off slowly, can they? Because they've got Warwick and Northumbria to start off with. And unfortunately for Cardiff, in the other situation, they've got Portsmouth and Brunel away to start off with as well. So, yeah, to your point, it's competitive division for a reason. It's that 1A for a reason, isn't it? Because who's going to show that they're good enough to go to the national? And it takes a lot to get up there in the first place, doesn't it? So great tier to go through. All right, then let's have a look at tier 1 North to start off with then, because obviously we've got that Scottish division that has no relegation whatsoever. Tier 1's now got Edge Hill Vikings in that Northern division, and because of that lack of relegation in Scotland, we've got Sheffield and Derby who head up to that Midlands and Yorkshire division. That looks like a tasty division, doesn't it? That Midlands and Yorkshire. Is that where we're looking for a bit of entertainment this year in Tier 1 North? Who's going to take it? Go on, Isaac.
Isaac, go on. You're Northern.
Yeah, I mean, Derby and Leicester still a bit too south, but no, and Nottingham definitely is. But no, I think that Midlands Yorkshire division does look really, really good. You got the 2 Northern finalists from last season in Derby and Sheffield, who are in the same division again. You got Sheffield Hallam and Nottingham Green that have stolen coaches from each other all the time, and there's massive rivalries on the pitch, and and that's a huge game in itself. Hallam upsetting Nottingham Green last year twice, like back-to-back weeks, which is huge. And yeah, I think that division, there's a lot of different storylines in it. It'd be nice to see if Nottingham Green can carry on the form of what they did last year, and keep going up the leagues. But again, it's going to be a tough division for them, because you look at Sheffield Hallam, a well-coached side, and Derby and Sheffield, Derby, which I can still remember being Prem North, which doesn't seem like too long ago, but no, they've got some great teams in there.
Nothing else to
I
add.
think two things from me.
Go on,
I think two things from me from the north. Scotland. I'm looking forward to seeing how the teams settle there. Last year, there was lots of sort of postponed fixtures, walkovers awarded here and there. So I really hope that those sort of 6 teams can sort of compete this year. And then also we kind of saw, I might be actually thinking about adult contact, so I won't say what I was going to say. It'd be interesting to see sort of who then progresses to the playoffs from there. I know sort of Aberdeen struggled a little bit last year. So yeah, looking at that and the not so new Heriot Watt, I'll get that in straight away that they're not a new team this year. They've been around for a lot of years. So yeah, before anybody starts from Scotland, they're not a new team. And also, we'll excuse the typo in this graphic because it's an old graphic, but they are now not the UCLan Rams anymore. They are the University of Lancashire Rams because their university has rebranded all their sports and the entire university. So yeah, you won't see UCLan Rams mentioned on any graphics after this one. Yeah, they are the University of Lancashire Rams, but I might just start calling them the Lancashire Rams.
UCLan was better. Wrong side of the finance. Definitely.
I've been around universities since 2006, and they've always been UCLan. So I'm sorry, it's going to be a habit of a lifetime.
It's like Charlie. It's like Charlie all over again.
It's going to be like Charlie. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
I can see multiple apology messages in DMs going, I'm sorry, we've used UCLan again.
I have to think of something else because I can't say Lancashire every week. I won't feel 100%.
Right. Just go with that. No other maps.
Speaking of, are they the favourites in that division? I know the Raptors have come down from the Prem, and they obviously had a lot of turnover from their successes over the last few years. And I know personally that a number of their very senior players who were all 50-year seniors, you know, it was men amongst children and men amongst boys in the end, you know, for them, and they lost them last year, and they obviously came down quite quickly. But UCLan, as far as I can tell, they've still got all their stars on there. They've been loading up. They've got a great coaching team that we know of through a lot of Manchester Titans sort of connections as well, isn't it? Is there anything to suggest that, you know, that's going to go very similar to last year, albeit there's 2 different people in this tier, or what are we taking from what we've seen so far, albeit only over social media for these teams, Isaac?
I think that, yeah, UCLan, in my opinion, is the clear favourite. You saw that they did take Northumbria close quite a few times, who did eventually get promoted. So there's a thing there that they are going to be still strong. You know, they keep the QB who's got a summer of experience under his belt playing at Manchester Titans and, you know, leading them into the playoffs. So no, it's going to be great to see. I think last season as well that we saw it were a UCLan, like 2 QBs going against each other who both played for, I've said UCLan, played for the Rams. Am I just making it up? I could be. But no, like, and you look at the recruitment as well, the signing people that, you know, have got experience of Great Britain, SGS, who've got experience in the league. So no, I think that the Rams could definitely, you know, show what they're about and, you know, look to that next step and get promoted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then obviously we've seen the great work that Edinburgh Napier have done across multiple formats, right? And they're always well coached. And I suppose in Scotland, all we're hoping for is that there are 8 games, aren't there, for everybody, or 7, is it? You know, across all, and we can get all of them in because we had quite a number of cancellations last year, didn't we? Across that division. Any other notes before we head south? No. Well, Stuart, over to you then, because we in Tier 1 South, we've obviously got 3 new faces with the relegations that happen. Plymouth Blitz have made their way up to the southwest. OBU, under the tutelage of Calvin, have gone into the southern, which is odd to say for an Oxford, but then Kingston have obviously made their way up in southeast as well, and then they're joined by Birmingham Lions in the southern as well from the Prem. So I think that Southern looks tasty, doesn't it? Southwest was a bit of a mixed bag at the start of last year, if I remember correctly, as we were trying to figure out what on earth was going on. And obviously, that Southeast will always be tasty with all those London outfits down there. So what are you thinking across Tier 1 South?
I'm going to start with a massive elephant and a massive bombshell in the room. For those of you that have looked on BUCS Play and have already had a look at everything that's going on, in the Southwest, you'll see that the Bournemouth Bobcats are starting the season on -7 points. They haven't even played yet. And I am led to believe that this is because they fielded an ineligible player last season. I've not had that verified. I've not messaged anybody from BUCS. I've not messaged Bournemouth themselves. So if you're hearing this and that's not correct, I will reach out, but please let us know. But somebody randomly reached out. I can't remember whether it was to me personally or to the IBB page and said, do you know why on BUCS Play it's showing -7 points? No, I don't. But somebody has then reached out to me and said, so it's not verified. What is verified is the fact that on BUCS it says -7 points. So they're going to have a massive hill to climb. They're going to have a massive hill to climb. But if anybody can do it, it's going to be the Bournemouth Bobcats. Like last season, they were pretty much unstoppable in the division. They only conceded 10 points all season in the division. They scored 310. So, a points difference of 300 points, 8-0. You'd kind of expect them to do okay in that division. I don't see Plymouth Blitz coming up from Tier 2 to Tier 1. They might compete against them, but I don't think they'll take 2 wins off them. So, I'm just trying to think, can that -7 points be overcome with 8 wins this season? It's going to be interesting to see. So that was kind of the big bombshell I kind of wanted to drop. It is great to see those 3 teams back in Tier 1, Plymouth, OBU and Kingston. The latter having been a Prem team before, but they are definitely rebuilding. They kind of tumbled down and resettled. And it'd be good to see Kingston compete against those teams in the Southeast. I don't quite get Brighton and Southeast, whether they could have gone into the Southern. I kind of get it from like a leveling it out, 5 teams in each division. But a few people are scratching their heads at Brighton to, UCL maybe or KCL having to travel that distance, but I think it kind of makes sense because you kind of don't want Brighton going to Birmingham, do you? So it's somebody has to miss out because there's 10 teams there and the geography isn't quite right. I feel for Brighton, but I think all 3 of those would be great. Me personally, having been involved with the Lions, it's I think we've seen since their championship winning days, we've seen the decline coming. And I just hope that it's not going to be the full slide like it has been for a number of teams all the way down. What will be interesting to see is that Birmingham Hearts game. I know that there was a lot of rivalry, heated and friendly, when they both played in the Prem South and in the Premiership together. So, that's one fixture that I'm sort of circling and looking at, red versus purple. Looking forward to that.
I'm trying to think what sort of damage that -7 will have, and I suppose if they do, let's say they go undefeated again, though, they would still take points off other people, wouldn't they? So it would effectively, if it happened the same way last year, they would have just finished second, 1 point behind Bristol. If it's similar to last year, but it depends if that's a yellow card situation and they can't make the playoffs as well, which will just be disastrous. So we'll have to reach out to BUCS and see what we can get out of them. We'll bring you an update next week when we're able to get that. Anything stand out to you, Isaac, here?
I think apart from, I was going to say Bournemouth are going to go really well this year, but I'm not going to say that. I think that that Birmingham they slow down. I always saw Birmingham as like one of these top teams, and they're always going to be in the Prem no matter what. And it's kind of like a hit to, like, it's almost like a bit of reality's hit them. And really, like, you've got to improve with the times, and it's shown that over the last couple of seasons they haven't. I think they got lucky with the Prem North South. That it didn't happen before, and this new Prem South kind of saved them from being in Div 1 before. But definitely now, like, I think they've got to see this as a rebuild year and see if they can just take the ground running. Also in that conference, you got an Oxford derby, which, you know, it's going to be massive cross city rivals. So yeah, I think that Southern is definitely looking the tastier out of the three, if I'm honest.
Yeah, because I think the unknown is probably how good OBU are going to be up in this tier, isn't it? Because they were really good last year, weren't they? They were dominant, if memory serves. Yeah, I was just looking that they had a point differential of over 180 over 5 games and 5-0, you know, and then went into the playoffs and did the exact same thing, didn't they? Which is just delightful to see. So how will they fare against an ex-Prem team, Hertfordshire Hurricanes, who were no pushovers last year either, and then Oxford Lancers, who can fight with anyone on their day. But yeah, it's a very interesting part of this tier, isn't it? Because there's probably more questions during these three tiers, these divisions, than there were in the north, but remains to be seen, I suppose. Any other notes before we head to tier? No, let's have a little look at Tier 1 North then. So out of Tier 1 came LJMU Fury, Hull Sharks and Coventry Jets. They were relegated from their respective divisions last year. And then we've got a new team as well in the Salford Storm, which is interesting considering there's now obviously 3 Manchester universities that are in here now, which is great to see. But nonetheless, that Northwest division is very different now, isn't it? It was 4 last year, wasn't it? And now we've got Coventry Jets, who are going to probably try and get out of the Midlands as quick as possible. That won't be easy to do. So, Isaac, where does your eyes take you when you're looking at the north side of this tier?
I think it's the northeastern one, and yeah, the Bradford bears out in it, and it looks upsetting, but I have to get over it. But it's the division of new head coaches. Hull, York, and York St John have all got new head coaches. The York St John has got Andy Yell, who I work with at Bradford. York have got Conor McPherson from MMU and other clubs, and then Hull have got Liam Barmby, who would have promoted from within, who I've played with before, and all sorts. So no, that division's really interesting. And then you look at Sunderland, and if you look at the noise that they've been creating online, they're recruiting really, really good players. You know, a running back who's been there before, who's come back over from the States, a couple of other lads from the States as well. So that division there, it's going to be, you know, Sunderland, can they use the experience of the players they've got coming over, and then what is the rest of the new head coach is going to look like? Because, for example, for York St John, it's been a complete staff overhaul, new head coach and a new defensive coordinator. So can they improve from last year? You know, a winless season. I think even a couple of wins for them will be huge. You look at the Northwest as well. You know, LJMU will be looking at that and thinking we can get out of that as quick as possible. But it'll be really interesting to see what the Salford Storm can do. You know, I think coming out today on Monday, you know, EP Sports Power, their power rankings in Salford Storm are on there. It'd be interesting to see what they can be like, because I don't think they don't kick off their season till week 4 against Kiel, which, you know, going off last season's results is quite a nice little step for them to get into. Then you look at Midlands and it looked really competitive. I think last season you look at when they had Derby in there and it looks as if like apart from Derby, there were no standout. And I think here it's kind of the same. There's no standout team. I think anyone can beat anyone on the day, and I think that's what's quite exciting about it, that you don't know what's going to happen, because of the last couple of seasons, especially. They've had some really, really good sides in there.
Didn't the Coventry Jets get relegated because they didn't play their final game and they got a -2 or something, if memory serves? You know, so they're no pushovers, the Coventry Jets, are they? And they certainly, they were a thorn in the side, if I remember correctly, for a couple of teams last year. Yeah, they beat Hull, which might have, on the face of it, might have been expected, but they beat Leicester last year as well, who we know are a very tough side to play against. So to your point, you know, Cambridge and Lincoln were sharing the spoils after Derby ran the table, and then you've joined by Coventry Jets. So very interesting there. Can LJMU bounce back that was a disastrous season by their standards last year, and I'm sure they'll be wanting to prove themselves against some familiar foes. Staffordshire, Keeler, Lancs. That they've seen them all before, haven't they? I'm sure they'll want rid of them again if they can bounce back up to Tier 1. Stuart, anything from you before we move over to the south?
Nope. Nope. I think you've covered it. LGMU will bounce back. Coventry, I think, probably won't. They flirted with relegation the last few years. I don't think they'll bounce straight back, but that will be an impressive division. I think everybody's going to steal wins off everybody in that Midlands.
Yeah, absolutely. And can Hull play a full season, which will obviously be priority number one for them this year, won't it? Because they missed a game last year as well. So having a little bit further south, no real changes here other than obviously they're joined by new teams that have been relegated. So Swansea Titans came down to the southwest, replacing Plymouth. Reading came down to the southern, replacing, I think it was OBU. And then Essex Blades come down to the southeast, replacing Kingston. So the southeast got off to a real weird start last year, didn't it? There was ties, there was cancelled games, there was all sorts. So that was a tricky one to try and get your head around. And then it seemed like Southwest didn't start for 6 weeks last year either, did it? And then really the southern was split into two, wasn't it? So I know that's a broad stroke across the two, but what are your expectations this year across this part of Tier 2?
Without being really boring, I think we're going to see the same across all three divisions. Swansea will be looking to bounce back, but I don't think they will. They, again, another ex-Prem team that have had a really big fall from grace. I think they're falling into a division where a number of teams are in rebuild years. Gloucester are obviously rebuilding. Worcester are sort of rebuilding. They got a bit of momentum last year. It's just whether they can continue this year. UE Bullets 2, second year of a new sort of head coach who obviously championed Sandwell Steelers to sort of 2 really good seasons. So it'd be interesting to see what Coach Sam can continue to build there. Bathspa, the perennial thorn in everybody's side, a horrible away trip. No offense, guys, but I think even you probably don't enjoy playing on a pitch that's slanted like this. And then Aberystwyth.
Okay.
I'll say it for you, Isaac, don't you worry. Another pitch that, if it rains a little bit, tends to get really, really wet and sodden. So yeah, nobody likes making that trip across to Aberystwyth. So it's going to be, I think, parity across that. So if people steal their home wins, it's just going to be who can sneak an away win here or there. Again, Reading dropped down into a division that I think is going to stay split in half. I haven't seen an awful lot, if I'm really honest, or reached out to an awful lot of these teams yet. This week one seems to have crept round quicker than my brain can fathom out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether these guys have recruited silently and can sort of split that divide. And then in the southeast, your guess is as good as ours, isn't it, really? It won't be as crazy as it was last year. It can't be as crazy as it was last year, can it? Surely.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. You went proper northern. I was just about to mention McCarthy. You went proper northern there. It can't. Surely teams have got to come out, play full games, play games, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing and covering what that Southeastern comes out with. But I don't know what to say about it because I don't think we got a true look at what it was last year.
All three of those relegated sides had a tough year last year, didn't they? Yeah. An average of -2 for between all three teams. It really wasn't good for them. So it really does have to be a rebuild. Did they manage to reset? Did they get some resources behind them from their SU to be able to think about bouncing back? And because of that, you really wouldn't expect them to do some damage in these divisions, would you? In which case, if you're looking towards last year and there hasn't been some major reshuffling within any of these programs, then you're looking at the likes of UE2 to do some damage with some coaching stability. You're probably expecting someone like Sussex or Surrey to come out of of that southern team tier, if I remember correctly. They were the ones, they shared results, didn't they, last year? And then you've got Quimble, who were well and truly that second team. And I think it was only a couple of points here and there, or maybe even a head-to-head that put Kingston ahead of them going into last year, the final of last year anyway. So, as you say, teams can bounce back with some major recruitment, but they would have to do a major real recruitment, but also a good coaching job at the same time in tier 2. And it's probably one of the hardest to get out of unless you have that big reset. But nonetheless, I always look towards the adult contact as well and see who's around them and who's done well in the adult contact around those universities, and Swansea surrounded by South Wales who did well. UWE's
on the flip side of that, Canterbury, C4, they've got East Kent Mavericks, I believe. They're a partnership, aren't they? Because they changed the logo and everything like that, but last season that didn't work out. They're not here.
No, they're not here either. Yeah, so...
they're on the spreadsheet. I've got confused.
But no, nonetheless, it's, that they've obviously taken a step back because of the programme not benefiting from it, to your point. Essex Tridents did well. If there's any links there for the Blades, I just look towards that. And obviously London's surrounded by some amazing programmes in adult contact, aren't they? So we'll see how that does. But nonetheless, it's still going to be crazy. It's BUCS, isn't it? It's, you can say something in week 1 and then in week 4 you look stupid, don't you? So we'll see. Let's have a look briefly towards this week then, because we've got 2 games. I know we've talked about the previews in its entirety for the Prem. We've got some opening acts in the north. We've got Leeds Griffins against Newcastle Raiders, and then Brunel facing Portsmouth for their first Premier game. But what's your expectations from these 2 games? Because obviously, Isaac, you've done your preview, which will go up on our website this week. What thinking about these in depth? What did you think would be the takeaways from these fixtures?
I think Leeds Newcastle game, I think it's kind of a free hit for both sides. I hadn't seen much from Leeds on the socials, but from Newcastle, they had a scrimmage last week. With their new coaching staff, like a full overhaul of coaching staff, they're looking to really build on the momentum they've got and kind of take their last day, the last day staying up kind of hope thing and keep pushing with it. I think Leeds, it's going to be. I think I always thought that Leeds were going to do really well this season, but then you look at the list of the coaches they've lost. Losing the head coach, their OC, multiple other provisional coaches to their cross-city rivals in Leeds Beckett. It's not a great sign for the Griffins. I still think that no matter what, they're a Russell Group University. They're going to do quite well with the recruitment. They're going to get lads who play rugby normally, who will hit somebody, but I don't know. I think Newcastle, if you look at it on paper, I think Newcastle, in my opinion, are slight favourites for this one. Very slight. But we saw what Leeds Griffins can do last season. It won't be a surprise to anybody if they did the exact same.
Mm-hmm. It's challenging to say that when these are the finalists who faced SGS for Prem National, opportunity here, really, wasn't it? It's challenging for them, isn't it, to say that? But a big senior coach overhaul, isn't it? In this situation. On the flip side, you've got Brunel, who are going to come in here with all the momentum that you could have wished for against a Portsmouth side who really tried their best to push SGS last year. What did you take away from this fixture?
I think it's exactly that. It's Portsmouth that are just going to look back on last season and think, look, this is the foundation. Here's what we can build from. Whereas Brunel are coming in going like, right, it's been that long they've been trying to get here. We're 10 years, 9 years, something like that. We've got to make it count. And, American QB, American receivers, some really good GB talent from Brunel. And they're just like, right, we're going to go into this and we're going to show what we're about. And, there could be a risk of quite a few burnings this year. And I think Portsmouth have to be kind of wary of that, and they've got to kind of think like, look, these lot are dangerous. They've got to do the homework on them. Luckily enough that they've got a full game from last season, and if anything, you run what works for you. So no, it's going to be definitely an interesting one in the south, and I don't think it'd be a surprise seeing any side win really, because I think it's two great sides who are capable of really good stuff.
Other than late night spelling, Stuart, anything from you to add for these fixtures across this weekend?
Yeah, making sure that I get a spell checker or a proofreader really looking at it.
So not do it instantly on Express. It does for me.
Well, you see, with the current fonts we've got, because I kind of ignore it because I don't want the capital letters to look different from the other one. So I just look at it and think, okay, that's fine. It's spelt properly. And then, you guys have downloaded it, uploaded it, put it on the screen, and I look very silly. So while you've been doing your review, Isaac, I've logged on to Adobe Express and changed it. So when this goes out, they're spelt correct. Don't you worry.
It never happened.
Joys of live TV. What are we going to see from these two fixtures? Moving swiftly on, I think we're going to see two completely polar opposites, as you've said. We've got the game of stability versus a game of instability and uncertainty, and it will just be interesting to see how Brunel set their stall out against a well-established Portsmouth team who will travel with a lot of stability, a really class act, and it'd be interesting to see what kits turn out, because I'm pretty sure that Brunel have blue and Portsmouth have purple. Somebody's gonna have to wear white, and probably on that grass surface. Third world problems of who's going to wear white kit on a grass surface is probably the last of our worries. This is going to be a really good game for us to see down in the south, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that stall gets set out early to see who's going to challenge at the top, or maybe the bottom of Prem South, depending on how the fixture goes.
It's definitely a litmus test for Brunel, isn't it? Where are you? Where are you going to end up this year? I should have worn that t-shirt.
Mick McCarthy and Delia Smith in the same episode. Gee.
No. Hey, that's
Blink-182. Yeah, that's what I was going.
That's poor.
I should get that memed t-shirt, shouldn't I? With the.
Where are you?
That's it. But certainly, if Brunel can come out and take it to Portsmouth, right, we'll all be hyping them up next week, won't we? In terms of how they're going to get on this year. I'm intrigued to find out what's going to happen up in the north. I'll give you two numbers: 96 and 6.
Oh, it's
the aggregate score.
Newcastle scored 6 and conceded 96. But their offensive coordinator just disappeared halfway through the season. So it's kind of like hard to go off. He just disappeared from the spot completely. So,
but you can see why I'm struggling to find any hope for Newcastle in this game when 96-6 was the aggregate score for Leeds' favour this time last year. But a lot has changed. As you say, a lot has changed. Newcastle have recruited good coaches. As far as we can tell, Leeds have only lost coaches. And so this is going to be a challenging time for Leeds. And obviously, both will have to deal with the change because the season's right here. I know they don't get a massive run-up when it comes to the freshest hangover to first game, but Britball's done it before.
I'm looking at Leeds' stuff on Instagram, and they only had their first training session on the 2nd of October. Like, in fact, you read new players. Like,
welcome to
quick
BUCS.
turnaround. Exactly. And the other day with Sunderland, Sunderland had 2 training sessions as a team, and then they've gone and played Northumberland. I'm like, how's that? How can you see if a kid's any good or if he's safe? If that's the, do you know what I mean? It's all a bit. I don't know. I think BUCS, we need to have a think about when we can do this news. Yeah, don't sit around me how quick it comes around.
It just shows you how dependent BUCS teams are on their established players as well, isn't it? It's really hard if you're new to the sport, if you're recruiting to the sport, it's very hard to get yourself in early, isn't it? Unless you're an athlete who's just like unbelievable, a running back or a defensive lineman or something like that, it's challenging, isn't it, to get yourself in.
You look at the Bears, and I guess it'll be the same for the C4. But like once all your experienced players leave, and you've got to recruit 15 new guys, all of a sudden that becomes a lot harder when you haven't got the current guys there to like, oh yeah, look at what we can do. It's got to be tough, especially in Div 2 when they're having to ref their own games and all sorts this year. It's going to be a tough old slog for them teams.
Yeah, 100%. Well, really looking forward to getting it kicked off this weekend. We'll obviously have it all covered for you, and we'll be back next week, of course, to look over those results. Before we get out of here, though, I did tell you that I'd give you an announcement as to a new segment we'll be bringing to the podcast, which is Poll Assassin. We're delighted to be be reached out by Depth Chart Sports, who want to do a writers poll as such, a bit like what they do with the AP poll in college. And so we'll be collaborating with them and First Down magazine to bring you a poll. So we're looking forward to seeing what the preseason one brings out, and what we'll do week in, week out. We'll have a little look back at last week's poll, and we'll see how we think that might be affected by results going into this year, and without trying to give away our own ballots. But we're really looking forward to seeing if this concept works, because I think it'd be brilliant to bring it to the other formats for sure. So good on Depth Chart Sports for reaching out to us and bringing this collaboration about. So by the time this podcast comes out, I'm trying to think of my days here, you'll probably have to wait another day, or it might be coming out sometime that day, the poll, which will be the preseason poll from all of us. So everybody at Inside Brit Ball, everybody at Depth Chart Sports, and everybody at First Down Mag will be providing their opinions to some sort of poll, which we're looking forward to doing. I won't ask you guys because I wouldn't want to put you on the spot, but looking forward to breaking that down with you two anyway.
We should do our
just
own.
as wise.
We make a graphic like of what we did ourselves. Like when they do like on the people, where it's like, oh, who's got who here, and we can see how wrong we all are.
Yeah, in time, Isaac. I think in time we might do. I think everybody's nervous enough as it is to doing this. But,
it's funny. It's funny you mentioned about who's getting it wrong, because it's not just us three that have filled it out. We've put it out to our entire content group as well. So, us wise heads have had a go, and some not so wise heads, some old heads or old faces, as they called themselves on a previous pod. I believe they're also having goes. So that might, hopefully it doesn't shake up the actual poll too much, and we wildly see teams in there that shouldn't be. Because can you imagine someone's accidentally put Salford Storm in the top 10 in the country? Or, someone's put Aberystwyth in there as a bit of a joke. Let's hope their pin the tail on the donkey hasn't gone horribly wrong.
Actually,
we'll see.
The Bangor Lions, that's what I think is number one.
Nice rebrand there, by the way. I did like.
I remember that one.
Yeah,
and
you can say
we
that
need
one.
Another Lions, do we?
About
we haven't got.
It's a green lion, not a red lion. It's fine.
That's true. It's very true. Brilliant. Anything else before we need to get out of here? No. Awesome. Fantastic. So. Well,
the U19s.
Got the U19s
development.
Absolutely.
Then,
absolutely.
Big game in Leeds on Saturday. Team Scotland. Yeah, no. You can get your tickets online.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Come up to Leeds to see some on the 19s. If the Scotland SGS is anything to go by, it'll be worth going.
Yeah.
Awesome. Exactly. Well, best of luck with that, Isaac, for sure. And we'll keep you up to date with all things going on. And we'll be back for certain next week. We'll be figuring it out. We'll probably be going live next week if we can get that all sorted, which will be great. So come along and join us, because we'd love to get your comments and your insights live so we can react to them. We haven't decided a day just yet. We'll figure it out based on our availability, because Bradford are busy. Stuart's busy traveling around as well, aren't they? So we'll figure it out sometime, but we'll come to you and we'll try and get to you live so you can join in the chat. But Brill, thanks for getting together again. Great to have you back, Stuart and Isaac, and looking forward to breaking down BUCS over the winter for sure. Thank you everyone for joining us if you're watching or listening, and we'll catch you again next week. Take care. go.